Hello and welcome to the Wesleyan Sacred Music Institute's Summer Sacred Music Conference. My name is Bryson Mortensen, and I'm excited to welcome you to this session presented by Eric Bermani, who is the title that we're going to talk about here is the Choir Director as Music Educator. Since 2008, Eric Bermani has been the Diocesan and Cathedral Director of Music for the Roman Catholic Diocese of Manchester, New Hampshire. He's responsible for all aspects of the cathedral music program, including directing 4 choral ensembles and is sacred music liaison for those in the diocese. In addition to his cathedral ministry, he is also adjunct professor of organ and sacred music at St. Anselm College. He's also director of liturgical music, where he is responsible for the 65-member college choir. Eric is finishing up his Doctor of Ministry degree from Boston University School of Theology, where his research lies in the area of lex orandi lex credendi, or how sacred music forms believers.
Hello everyone, it's great to be with you. My name is Eric Bermani, and I'm the Director of Music for the Diocese of Manchester, New Hampshire, and I'm also the Director of Music here at the Roman Catholic Cathedral of St. Joseph in Manchester. A church musician with 33 years plus of experience. I wear several hats, and in addition to my responsibilities to the cathedral, I'm also director of liturgical music at St. Anselm College. I'm also adjunct professor of organ and of sacred music there. And I'm really blessed because since 2008, I've been able to work with about 100 choristers over the course of a week, ranging from the 4th grade to those up in their 80s. And for my seasoned choristers, I would not divulge their names because they wouldn't want that information to go out. But it's great to be with you. This presentation is going to be focused on the choir director as a music educator. Now, admittedly, this topic could be challenging and perhaps even somber. But yet at the same time, despite those difficulties, I believe that it is a time of exciting and full of uncovered potentials for our church communities. With all that's going on, and with our recovery, and with our regaining footing, we need to rethink our role, especially in light of COVID and the decline of the arts in our society and in our culture. That being said, and that's our reality, there is an absolute necessity for choir directors to function more as a music educator. The church needs to reclaim her position as the patron of the arts. Before we can get too involved, we may need to do some rebuilding of our programs due to the effects of the COVID pandemic. Let me start by quickly outlining possibly strategies on how to build a choir. When we build a choir, personal invitation is always the best when recruiting in the parish community. Definitely use social media to announce that the church is seeking out additional choristers. Develop some press releases for your local media, and let the local music schools and even your high schools know about what you're doing. And don't forget about your local community choruses. Develop flyers, press releases, and really saturate the entire community with word that your church is looking for some new choristers. You can schedule a Meet Your Music Ministry Sunday. If coffee and donuts are part of your parish Sunday tradition, designate a music ministry Sunday and have your current choir members greet and serve the parishioners. Provide name tags for everyone because we all like to be called by our names. Create some picture collages depicting the choir's service in music ministry. Use pictures from your weekend liturgies, from your Triduum, from Easter, from First Communions, or for confirmations, and even parish picnics or dinners. For some, this will be very attractive because they may want to become more involved in parish life and aren't sure where to begin. Definitely showing the music ministry as a community will be beneficial in recruiting more members. Another strategy that you can do is to contact your director of religious education and invite confirmandi working on service hours to become members of the parish choir. You can also contact your local high schools and see which youth are currently singing in the high school choir. Invite them to sing in the parish choir as well. Contact the band and the orchestra directors, and you'll find excellent parish youth instrumentalists. Invite them to become members of your music ministry, and you will soon be able to establish a youth ensemble. Remember, the youth of today are our choristers for tomorrow. You can also institute a variety of short-term choirs. Now, oftentimes people are in a busy time in their lives, and committing to a weekly rehearsal and service schedule is simply not possible. So begin by forming a Holy Week choir, which would rehearse weekly throughout the Lenten season and serve as the choir for the Triduum liturgy. Now, if you're not ministering in a liturgically grounded church, use the liturgical calendar as a resource to assist in planning out your calendars accordingly. If the Holy Week musical repertoire is fairly stable from year to year, these new singers will become confident with the music. You can provide rehearsal recordings or links to various websites for the more difficult hymns and songs. You can also form a summer choir. This choir will rehearse for 30 to 50 minutes immediately before summer services, and members can sing on any Sunday that they are available to sing. So this is a less organized group, but still you're engaging them to sing. You're still building relationships. You're forming smaller communities. Definitely plan out your anthems, which are easily sung after one rehearsal. Add instrumentalists to create an excellent choral ministry experience that these singers will want to continue throughout the year. You can also form a Christmas choir. The services for Christmas Eve typically abound, and this is an excellent opportunity to choose one of the extra services to create a new choir. Schedule a certain number of rehearsals leading up to it, and provide rehearsal recordings or, again, links to websites, particularly if they're needed. Choose a choral anthem for the choir within their capabilities. And be mindful of the fact that, especially around the holidays, that people's time commitment may be less than what it would be in terms of other times of the year. So that might, depending on where you're at, that fact might be taken into consideration when planning out anthems. Again, definitely add some instrumentalists and begin in your church tradition. You can also form women's choirs or men's choirs. Now, these choirs would rehearse just once a month and support one of the services that may not customarily have a choral presence. Again, rehearsal tracks or links to websites may be helpful, and careful selection of anthems will also be of vital importance. These choirs will most likely have a stable core of singers, but additional singers can join these choirs as their monthly schedule permits. You can also form a combined choir. I like to think of this as knowing your church's local and particular ecosystem. Remember that our church communities are part of larger communities. We are but a link in a larger circle. So we must begin to think outside of our boxes and to where our boundaries, and hopefully lack thereof, exist, and be able to push beyond these invisible walls. So consider teaming up with neighboring parishes or even a synagogue and inviting both choirs to prepare a number of anthems. Schedule a joint rehearsal conducted by either one of the directors or even by a visiting conductor. Over 2 weekends, this combined choir will support a weekend service or special event at both locations. Open this choral music ministry to your parishioners. You can also offer evening prayer services. Plan these services around any feasts or special parish intentions, such as the Week for Christian Unity or the Feast of Saint Cecilia. Saint Cecilia, of course, is the patron saint of church musicians. Her feast is on the 22nd of November. or your church's patronal feast day. Many places even use Thanksgiving as an opportunity to put together a larger community choir. These involve short-term commitments and will offer singers from all church choirs and the congregations to experience worship opportunities outside of Sunday morning. You can get your current choir members involved in the strategizing. Be creative and aware of your particular church situation. But above all, remember that this is a music ministry and we are all called to be active participants in the liturgy. Provide your congregations ample opportunity to become a member of the music ministry. I also believe it is important that choir directors do some investigation and some research into the recovering, renewing, and reviving the historical role of as cantor. Now, Johann Sebastian Bach was the Thomas cantor in Leipzig, and the cantor, and we even see this today in the synagogues. The cantor was the chief singer, leading the people in singing. Okay, this really heavy in the German Lutheran tradition. The cantor was in charge of music for the congregations, and not just like teaching choir music. The cantor was in charge of all of the music and musical instruction in the school and for the music for the city. Okay, so the cantor had a huge educational role in teaching people how to sing and how to play instruments. Paul Westermeyer has written a book called The Church Musician. Now, this is a great book. I would encourage you to get a copy of and to read through it, because Paul does a fantastic job in really outlining the role and what he also believes is the imperative role of the cantor, and roots this in the German Lutheran tradition, uses Bach as the model par excellence, incorporates the cantors, the Jewish cantors' roles, and so on and so forth. And I believe that he's right on point in his assessment of the role descriptions, as you will. And I believe, almost sadly, believe that church musicians have got to expand that role to whatever extent possible to recover that art of the cantor. And I'm not suggesting that we go out and that we are teaching music out on the sidewalk. I'm not suggesting that, but I do advocate, because I see it daily, of the necessity for choir directors to really rethink their role. And of course, with this would come a necessary dialogue with your pastors and with your priests about increased remuneration also. There is a necessity for us to recover this part of our tradition of teaching music in our churches, because the people are not getting it. Fine arts programs are closing. We as a society are losing an appreciation of the arts, particularly that of choral singing. The church has got to fill that void. And I cannot be any more serious in saying that we've got to do whatever we can do to teach our people how to sing. So, how can you think outside of the box? These are some things that I've done and that I've had some really good success in. And that is the creation of additional course opportunities. Offer a 4-week course in basic music theory. So basic music theory, you're you're literally starting off with, this is a G clef, this is an F clef, this is a sharp, a flat, note values, so on and so forth. Offer a course on elementary singing techniques. Taking into account posture and breath support and diction and enunciation and articulation and phonating. Have that in like a 3-week course. Put together a course devoted to the history of sacred music and providing a particular context why we have sacred or church music. Many choristers could certainly benefit from that. I believe it's also important too, and this ties into our role as educators. We have to know our individual choristers. We have to know their strengths. We also have to know their weaknesses, because how else would we be able to develop a rehearsal plan to really account for a comprehensive music education? Therefore, I believe it is important for us to have an audition for choristers. You'll hear sometimes a negative response to that, but I believe that there's also a theological mandate too. St. Paul is very, very stern in saying that each person is called to his or her own talents. We operate as one body, but the foot does something different than the hand, does something different than the arm, so on and so forth. The same thing applies to music ministry, okay? Not everyone is called to be a singer, and to kind of shoehorn people into singing when they may have a talent for proclaiming the word, or for assisting in the sacristy, or for art and environment, so on and so forth. We need to be cognizant and respectful of people's true talents. Now, I'm not at all saying that people cannot learn singing. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that we audition people and that we have the opportunity to get to know them and to know exactly where they're at and where we have to work on. So the audition is really to determine skill levels. It shouldn't be anything that we should be avoiding, because it does not mean that we're closing people off. It just simply means that we're using that audition as an opportunity to get to know our choristers and to get to know their strengths and their weaknesses. And this is important for choir directors to function as a music educator. It gives us the opportunity to meet new singers. And like I said, to develop a sense as to where weaknesses may be, and allows us the opportunity to offer to improve their technique and their skill level. Now, on rare occasions, when you have someone who truly cannot sing, again, you have the great opportunity to match the skill level with the correct church ministry. Perhaps that person might be called to lector, or to be a Eucharistic minister, or to be a minister of hospitality, or to even serve in art and environment. This, I believe, has a theological mandate, because St. Paul reminds us rather forcefully that although we are all one body, we're all called to serve in different capacities. The foot is different than the hand, is different from the arm, so on and so forth. So we cannot just shoehorn people into music ministry because we don't know where else to put them. That isn't right. So we need to have respect for everybody and to really determine where their skill levels are. And it's important for us to follow up on every single lead. It's also important that when we think of our rehearsals that we have a reasonable time frame. For children, for your children's choir rehearsals, dedicate at least 1 hour. For adults, definitely 1.5 hours. And you can certainly let them out earlier if need be. But it would be important to have extra time and not need it versus to have extra time and not have it. So this leads us to the importance of refashioning our rehearsal procedures. And rehearsal procedures are extremely important. I like to tell my choristers that there's a difference between rehearsal and practice. We don't have choir practice, we have choir rehearsal. Expect your choristers to practice on their own. When people are practicing on their own, with that comes an expectation that they're at home practicing, or they're in their car warming up, or they're practicing themselves. Rehearsal is a group activity that we're polishing pieces together. So really be very clear on those two terms, because practice is not rehearsal. So make sure that your choristers kind of get into that mindset. It's important for us to have a intentional space, even with a whiteboard, if at all possible. I have a grand piano, and I have a whiteboard, and I'm constantly putting notes. The whiteboard is imprinted with the musical staff, so you can make notes, and it has more of a classroom like appearance. Always have the space be clean, neat, and cheerful, and well lighted. Have your chairs evenly and well spaced. Have a good piano and make sure that it's in tune, and be positive and even humorous. It's important to have a good attitude at all times, because education is important. It's vital for us to use proper terminology and to teach music theory whenever possible. So consider the first 10 minutes of your rehearsal time to be the prime music education opportunity. With careful planning, this time can touch upon your key areas of musicianship, such as vocal technique, healthy use of the body, healthy breathing, an oral connection with the ensemble and congregation, and music theory, ear training, as well as prayer and spirituality. I always begin my choir rehearsal with a prayer, and then we launch into breathing techniques, stretching, and vocal eases. You can build on these concepts throughout the rest of the rehearsal and even the entire choir season, and you can bring your ensemble to a different place by the end than they were at the start. So begin with your breathing and stretching exercises, your vocal eases and warm-ups. These can be drawn from both abstract scales and collections, as well as from repertoire. And there are a bunch of collections available. Definitely check them out. They will reinforce different intervals and modulations, and they're just very, very handy to have. Also take a look at your repertoire too, because you can excise different vocal eases from the material that they're singing on. Definitely reinforce a good posture, both sitting and standing. And don't be afraid to map out seating arrangements to match vocal timbres. So it's okay for you to kind of experiment with the seating. If you have a particularly interesting color from one singer, you can kind of match that with a similar singer. You can do a whole bunch of things with the seating arrangements. Now, people can like to be creatures of habit. They like to sit where they sit. You might have a challenge in that, but remember, you're the choir director. So definitely mix up the seating arrangement, and you'll probably get different colors. It's important, a small little thing, but definitely provide pencils. Make sure that they're sharp. Provide pencils for your choristers. And for the conductor, try not to talk too much. Just listen and sing. Do not sing with the group, and don't mouth out the text. Conduct and really listen to them, okay? whenever they're singing, it's important to let them sing completely through a new piece in order to give the feel of the work a shot. So let them sing through it before you dissect it, okay? Then go back and identify the sections and approach the piece in that manner. There's nothing worse to a choir's psychology than when the director starts and stops, starts, stops, starts, stop. Oh, I don't like that. No, let them sing through the piece. If you're not able to let them sing through the piece for whatever reason, then let them at least get through the page. But that constant stop, start, stop, start can be really detrimental to them. So let them sing, make a mental note, and then just stop. Okay? My mom always says, you get the bear with the honey. I always remember that whenever I'm working with the choristers. Work on sections that only truly need polishing. Avoid simply singing through the work, and avoid being overly picky about a piece. I'm not saying to abandoning standards at all. I'm not saying that at all. But we all know how sometimes musicians, especially directors, can be, right? Try to kind of go in the opposite direction. When a potential problem does arise, definitely correct it. But keep the pace of the rehearsal fast and energetic. Don't ever allow for too much downtime, okay? Because that can then provide a negative affect. We don't want that. As church musicians, we can often feel siloed and feel as though that we're wandering in the wilderness by ourselves, and nothing can be further from the truth. And we do join each other in a vast and varied array of colleagues ministering in numerous houses of worship, and we're all dealing with the same conflicts and challenges. So it's important. How are you able to kind of acquire additional skill sets? Because some of what I'm suggesting may require us to push our own boundaries and to acquire education. So join a professional organization and definitely utilize those online resources. Some professional organizations that I recommend are the American Choral Directors Association, or the ACDA, the Choristers Guild, even the National Association for Music and Education. Definitely check out social media platforms such as Facebook. There's online resources. One will appear at the bottom of the page there. I have it written down here too, and it's smartmusic.com. And definitely engage in any ongoing education opportunities such as this. Whatever we can do to increase our own education will only benefit those in whom we are entrusted to serve. So again, our role as choir directors, I really believe that we have to re-examine that role, and that it has to morph from simply the person who conducts the choir to that as a music educator. Someone who is able to put together some courses, or to bring in somebody to teach a series of courses based on music theory, musicianship, singing. If you're doing instrumental work, maybe even instrumental performance, history of sacred music, so on and so forth. We're really at a crossroads with the culture, and we're seeing the fine arts evaporating before our very eyes. And the church is going to become the only institution that's going to be able to offer music education. And this allows a great opportunity for us to music education through through a religious lens. And definitely, we've got to think outside of the box. I do not believe that this is a case of reinventing the wheel, because this work has been done before us. It's been done, like I said, historically in the German Lutheran tradition in the time of Bach, and we still see it today to some degrees in synagogues. We need to tap into that. We need to model and adapt that in our own situations. So again, I wish that we could all be together. I'm sorry that this is a virtual experience, and I realize that there are limitations to what my presentation can achieve because of its taped nature, if you will. So my contact information will appear at the bottom of the screen. I urge you, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, or if you need some help brainstorming, whatever, please do not hesitate to shoot me off an email. I was envisioning that personal component, but again, we don't have that. We're here, so I feel as though that is the least that I can do. So please, if you have any questions, or do not hesitate to reach out to me. Know of my thoughts and prayers for you and for those which you minister with, and I thank you for the good work that you do in your church communities. God bless.